Hello, hello. It's the one and only. So right here, we're going to be talking about the ESTP. Shout out to the ESTPs in the building. ESTPs are bold, energetic individuals who thrive on adventure and spontaneity. All right, they have that extroverted sensing as a first function. So you can only imagine, right? That's a lot of energy. They're very aware. They're noticing a lot of different things that are going on in the environment. They have that hyper focus ability. They are practical problem solvers with a knack for navigating crisis with confidence. That's the big time. That once again, that extroverted sensing, and then they have the introverted thinking second. So when it's a lot going on and most people's senses are overloaded, they have the ability to be present and think moment to moment on what to do, even in the most pressure situations. And that's a superpower that they have. They're socially adept and charming. That's that extroverted feeling as a third function. They enjoy engaging with others and often excel in dynamic, fast-paced environments. And they tend to preference immediate action over long-term planning. And that just boils down to the fact that they have sensing first. They have extroverted sensing. So, the reality is that when it comes to intuition, that's their lowest function. And extroverted intuition, which is really about long-term projecting into the future, that's not their focus. And extroverted intuition is very long projections, and they prefer to focus on what's going on right now. So that's a big thing right there. Oh yeah. Now, before I move forward, let's check out Angelina Jolie, who has some ESTP characteristics, obviously, why they have her on here. And let's see what an ESTP looks like.
I think last time it was just too easy. So many of the fights were too easy for me.
She wants to get involved with everything.
Now, first of all, one thing I notice with ESTPs is they use very simple communication because they have introverted thinking. So they're saying exactly what they think. It's very direct. It's very, this is what is my first thought, but people like that about ESTPs. That's why their communication is understood, because they like to use simple language to get big points across. And that fighting scene was easy, right? Because their extroverted sensing can handle different tests, and so I think that's pretty cool.
Has opinion about everything,
and these are different tests from a physical standpoint. I just want to specify.
It was good that we knew to pass certain things through her, and really sometimes you need to rein her back because she wanted to do everything, and obviously insurance-wise, she's not allowed to.
Skills, the risk taker. She wants to do things. She wants to seek experiences. She wants to challenge herself. That's all ESTP.
Wanted to learn new locations she wanted to go to, and some kind of new combat she wanted to experience. She wanted to ride a horse. She wanted to have an underwater sequence.
She could punch you in kicking.
One of my enemies in the film is about 6'5". So I'm trying to get my foot to his head. We did some kicking last time and some, but I never really spent a lot of time just focusing on trying to understand the lines of the body and balance and height, and just training as much as possible.
So you see her challenging herself physically in the sensory.
Great doing it, and again, she learns it very well. Very, very good at learning tricky moves. And she'd probably be a really good dancer.
1, 2. Double block. I didn't know anything about it. I'd seen it done before, and I always was fascinated. I think it's an amazing thing to be able to pick up something as simple as that and use it as a weapon. I think that's a great skill to have. But it was great to train with him, and it was really fun. It was really fun. And
we were trying to teach her the various tricks that they know.
This is just so ESTP right here. This video, like, it's just badass. Like, she's just doing a bunch of different stuff, putting her physicality to the test, seeing different things. Like, ESTPs can do this type of stuff all day. Like, this is nothing.
It's really hard to stand up on that thing. You should try it. It's really hard. And she really jumps the wave, and she doesn't, she's not afraid to fall down and do it again over and over whenever necessary with different camera angles. She's great at it.
Up to now is very good.
exactly.
I like that. Look, people got a lot of people don't understand that about ESTPs, is that they can actually be very playful. So when it comes to ESTPs, a big thing for them is going to be, when they are able to experience different things, and you pair that with the extroverted feeling, like, and they're around people, you'll see them be very playful, very excited. ESTPs are some of the most excited types. I mean, they show excitement when their senses are being engaged and when good things are happening. So I think it's fun for them to show that playful side of the ESTP, because that's a very real aspect of them.
It was hard just because I always want to set challenges and I always assume I'll get it, but I think there were moments in that when I wasn't quite sure I was gonna do it all at once. This is one of the beginning of injuries. This is a rifle shell in the eye from horseback. I pumped the shotgun on the shell.
She wears her scars with pride. It's the excitement, the action. She got hurt, and she's smiling. That's the toughness that they have, the ESTPs.
In my eye. He wasn't completely broken in, so he still had that, which I love, but he still had that. You're not going to tell me where to go. I'm going that way. And hit a lot of fire in him. So sometimes, like when he tried to knock me off into the bushes, because the gunshots. You have to find a horse that's comfortable with somebody riding side saddle, but also comfortable with helicopters, but also comfortable with a shotgun spinning on it. And you can't blame the horse for having enough.
All right, there we go. That's awesome. Now, who is the ESTP? Let's delve a little deeper. All right, so ESTP is characterized as a person who is outgoing, action-oriented, and adventurous. They are often described as doers who live in the present moment and enjoy engaging in the world through direct experience. I like that idea, the doers, you know what I mean? In the sense of they're not really going to be spending as much time, even though they actually have a very good capacity to delve into ideas more than people realize. But they're going to spend more time wanting to do something about what's going on versus just speaking on it. ESTPs are known for their practicality. They value direct experience and engaging in the world. They're very resourceful. They're able to solve problems quickly and efficiently, and they thrive in situations that require immediate action. They excel in crisis management due to their ability to stay calm under pressure. Now, let's check out a few more ESTPs, get a better idea of the characteristics. I think it's very important to look and see other people with this type, because that's essentially how you're going to be able to identify other people with this type, is by noticing their characteristics. So, in my case, I have references, right? Even in my early days of starting to really understand it, I would always use friends or family as a reference. But everybody might not have a reference, everybody might not have somebody that they can look at. So that's why we have these celebrities here, right? You can look at these celebrities or people as examples and see how they utilize the characteristics. So let's take a look here and see what it looks like in a different form.
A difficult thing to describe, because it's not just doing what you want to do. That's not following your instinct. That's a very sort of impoverished idea of it.
Now you can see the stoicism kind of in her face, right? And that's, ESTPs can be very, they're a lot of the time they'll be in a playful or good mood, but if they're not in that mood, they can be just very relaxed. And I think people think ESTPs are more serious than they are, but it's because they can have that very serious nature and how they come off. But a lot of that is just their introverted thinking, and introverted intuition is being locked in on the thought. And they more so are the types to, they're thinking dominant. So their feelings aren't bubbling up out of them all the time. A lot of the time they're very just rational and logical, actually, is a better word. They're very logical and just very stoic a lot.
But really following your instinct, in the sense that you keep yourself always open to possibilities, and when the possibilities come, you recognize them and you go with them. I just hope that other possibilities will occur in my life.
Here we go. Extroverted sensing, extroverted feeling. Extroverted feeling has an ability to go with the chaos of the environment, because extroverted feeling is all about not feeling too deep about how I feel, being more focused on the feeling of the environment. So if the environment is feeling this way, ESTPs can naturally flow that way, or if it's going this way, they can go that way. And they like that. They like to have different things going on. They're able to go into different directions, learn different information. So that's something to keep in mind.
Worked, didn't you, as a fairground barker?
Barker, yes. Well, it was a sort of Saturday morning job I did when I was at school, much to the fury of my parents, for example.
Well, what did it require you to do? What did you have to do?
I stood at a dark.
You can see when he asked her the idea, it's a lot of work for her to come up with that idea because, she's having to tap into that introverted sense and going back in time. And that's a lower function for them, right? They're extroverted sensors. They're very present. So you see the work that's being put into, explain something from the past. And there's a little bit of agitation you can feel subtly. And that can give you an idea of, how that can feel like for ESTPs to have to go into a bunch of ideas and go in the past and answer all these questions,
Stall, and I called out to the people who were walking by to try and attract them to my stall as opposed to anyone else's. I've always been very attracted by fairground circus life, a transient life.
Why?
I don't know, I can't say why. It's like that song who is it by? Shirley Bassey, is it? I wanted to join the circus. No, go on, you tell me what's the name. Eartha Kitt, exactly.
Now, look, the circus, right? What's in a circus? A lot of sensory things to see, a lot of, distractions, a lot of things going on, a lot of entertainment. And that's where she would like to be. And then also you notice when she was having trouble to remember, she tapped him, right? She was like, yeah, I know you remember, right? That's that extroverted sensing, is that it's very much a feeling function. Her feeling is expressed through touch, through, the senses, right? And so that's the interesting thing. It's not just mental. And those are just little aspects of the ESTP.
That's my sort of one of my theme songs, absolutely.
You were quoted recently.
And my apologies. I realized I didn't even have you all switched over, but I hope you were able to hear everything. Regardless, if you weren't able to see this slide, don't worry. Or if you weren't able to see the previous video, it's not a big deal. I'm going to play some more examples from this video.
Saying that. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
No worries.
It's so important.
I know, huh? Dressed up like my dad.
When you see Angelina Jolie, look at how she's dressed. Very, her posture is very strong. It's not your typical, quote unquote, feminine posture, right? And that's that raw ESTP. They're tough, right? They are not your conventional. They're considered the bad boys, the bad girls, and you can feel that in her energy.
I'm gonna go out on a ledge. I'm gonna call you Screen Siren, Angelina Jolie.
Thank you.
Movie vixen, if you will. Don't you think?
Ooh.
You've done a lot of love scenes in movies, and yet, oddly enough, none of them with Jon Stewart. Does that hurt?
Yes.
All lies, I tell you. Are you having a situation?
Yeah. No, it's a fun movie. It's a really in Kate Blanchett's, and it's a dark comedy, and it's unusual. It's a little. They let us to try some things, and we got a little crazy, so it's fun.
What about for yourself on a personal level, like first crushes when you were a kid and stuff like that? When did you get first interested in the fellas? I have the answer right there.
I had Spock and
that's what I was waiting for.
Anthony Perkins in Psycho.
Isn't that neat?
Just because he was so repressed, and you just wanted to make him scream.
And I knew what I wanted to do. I felt stupid, so I went to college. I think everybody should have a good general education. And I was my senior year. I was, painting backstage for a show, and I saw on television the interview that Dick Cavett did with Katharine Hepburn. The only time Hepburn had ever been on television, and it was captivating. And I've always had huge respect for her. And what came out of that, I just, was holding my paintbrush and looking at it, and something said to me, "You want to do that?"
Holding my paintbrush, looking at it. That's that extroverted sensing. It's looking at the environment. You know what I mean? And really honing in on what it's seeing, right? And really having a connection with it. That's that extroverted sensing paired with extroverted feelings. So you can see when she was looking at that TV, everything else was blocked out. Everything made sense right there.
That, do it. Excuse me, I just blow up.
Playing the devil, was it a fun character to play?
It wasn't that much fun to play. For a naturally nice person like me.
Well, that goes without saying, but a lot of actors and actresses say playing somebody that's extreme can be really fun.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it's supposed to be fun. I realized that halfway through that it should be more fun. I think I took it too much to heart. I was aware that it was supposed to be fun to play this kind of a villainous kind of character, but I just was so aware of her pain and the things that were not working in her life. Is that Anne Hathaway screaming in the next room?
Probably.
You see how easily distracted she got, right? It was hard for her to get her idea out, first of all. You can see her like fighting to get these thoughts together because she'd much rather do something, right? But it's funny how even while she's trying to get her idea across, her senses are so perceptive. She's hearing things that's distracting her because extroverted sensing is so aware of everything in the environment. It's hard to really explain everything because it requires them to leave the focus of the environment, and they're always focusing on the environment. They're always looking, they're always exploring and seeing what's going on. They want to move, they want to see what's out there. So you can see that distraction came in. So, I think that's very interesting. So, all right, let's keep it pushing. All right, so now the strengths and weaknesses, all right, of the ESTP. Their strengths, they're adventurous, they're energetic, right? I mean, that's huge. They have extroverted sensing first. Extroverted sensing is the superhero function. Like I said in the ESFP video, like I have a friend that has extroverted sensing first that feels like he can fly. They're willing to push their body to the limits. They're willing to push themselves to experience new things. And they have that boldness. They're not really afraid like a lot of the other types to do new things. They're practical, which is that introverted thinking has the second function. They're bold and confident, charming and sociable, right? They have extroverted feeling third. And they have that extroverted sensing first. So they can be very present in the environment, wanting to create effects in the environment. Like they're the types to get flowers for someone. They show acts of service, acts of kindness by, buying you gifts, doing fancy things. They really put the people they care about on a pedestal and really try to give them good experiences, even though they can get a bad rap, right? But for not being as caring because they have introverted thinking second, which means they can sometimes prioritize what they think they want to do over the feeling of what their other people want to do, right? But as they mature, they can become very balanced, and they have both of those functions in the middle. That introverted thinking and extroverted feeling is in the middle. So they have a good ability to balance both if they work on that. They are realistic and pragmatic, and they're good at handling crisis situations, like we said many times on here. Now, weaknesses, they can be impulsive. Obviously, they have extroverted sensing first. They have intuition last, which means they're not really measuring the ramifications of their actions in the future as much as other types do, which can make them susceptible to getting in trouble because they're being impulsive. They can be insensitive at times. They can be easily bored. They can have a difficulty with long-term planning, and and they can get involved in risk-seeking behavior, which can be dangerous in order to fulfill that extroverted sensing. Intolerance for rules and authority is something that they can have trouble with. So that's something to keep in mind. And, all of that is that introverted thinking and extroverted sensing. It wants to do it. They want to do what they want to do. And that's where that stubbornness can kick in at times. And sometimes they can be a little reckless, right? Their extroverted sensing can just be, can overtake the environment at times. And so when we look at what an ESTP looks like at their worst, let's take a look at this video and you get a chance to see what that looks like. Because when they officially let go of caring about the environment, when they feel really enraged and that extroverted sensing kicks in and that introverted thinking gets very stubborn, and then that extroverted feeling, they want to really express their anger on the environment. So it's felt. And so this is a good example of what ESTP in the grip could look like.
This it? This what it's all about, Manny. Eating, drinking, fucking, sucking, come on, man. Snoring, then what? Then what? You 50? You got a bag?
So something to think about with ESTPs is they have introverted intuition fourth, and they have extroverted intuition eighth in their function stack. And at the end of the day, they have intuition last. So a lot of the time when they're looking at scenarios or possibilities, or when they tap into their intuition, it can be negative, right? It could be expecting the worst case scenario because they're not really dealing with ideas enough to really be comfortable in that world to that capacity. So a lot of the time they can feel unconfident or worried when it comes to ideas of there being this ultimate doom and gloom outcome.
For a belly, you got tits, you need a bra, they got hair on them, you got a liver, they got spots on it, and you're eating this fucking shit with it. You're looking like these rich fucking mummies in there.
Not so bad. Could be worse, no?
They got hair on them, you got a liver, they got spots on it, and you're eating this fucking shit with it. You're looking like these rich fucking mummies in there.
Not so bad. Could be worse, no?
This what it's all about?
Forget it.
This what I work for? Oh. Come on. I can't even have a kid with her, man. Her womb is so polluted. I can't even have a fucking little baby with her.
No, that's a moment where, them being stressed out, that introverted thinking is just saying whatever is happening. But the extroverted feeling isn't understanding, the severity of what they're saying. It's a bit of a disconnect. And this is where they can come off harsh. They can come off mean at times, things like that.
I don't mind listening to that. That shit, I like that,
How dare you talk to me like that? What makes you so...
He really upset her with that communication. And that's his lack of awareness of how she might feel. They have introverted feeling very low as well. So they don't really know how they feel at times, which makes it harder for them to know how someone else would feel. So when they lash out, they can say some very harsh things at times.
Mother, do you think you
Come on.
I'm going to drive him to school in the mornings? Are you even going to be alive?
And you notice when they lash out, number one, that introverted intuition goes into tunnel vision. So they can kind of black out where it's like, they can just, it's hard to see other possibilities when they're in deep stress and they can lash out. Another thing to keep in mind is that, they have that extroverted sensing first. So they might want to get physical. They might want to grab. Like you see, he wanted to grab something, touch something like, that's why ESTPs are considered very physical types compared to the other types. Most ESTPs have gotten into fights or some kind of altercation before. Not all, but that just goes to show you a lot of them. And like they learn through that. That's how they express their anger. And so you can see even in his anger, you can see that coming out.
By the time the kid goes to school... I'm leaving you. I don't need this shit.
Okay, what? Yeah.
I'll take it home. Yeah.
Let her go, man. Another quaalude, you're gonna love me again. Look at that. You're all a bunch of fucking assholes. You know why? You don't have the guts to be what you want to be. You need people like me.
He's projecting now on the extroverted feeling is coming out. And instead of dealing with the emotional pain within himself, he wants to project his anger onto the environment. And he wants to project it onto the physical environment around him. And you can see how that can be very detrimental at times. And this is an example.
You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy. So, what'll that make you? Good? You're not good. You just know how to hide.
You see, they're extroverts. So people, when they have that negative introverted thinking, they, it can skew the way they feel about the environment, and they're willing to project that out because they are extroverted. And so that negativity wants to be expressed in an extroverted way.
I lie. Me, I don't have that part. Me, I always tell the truth. Even when I lie. So say good night to the bad guy. Come on. The last time you're gonna see a bad guy like this again, let me tell you. Come on. Make way for the bad guy.
All right, so there you go.
There's a bad guy coming through.
All right, so there we go. That can beat them at their worst. So now let's talk about the loops that they can fall into. And in the case of the ESTP, there's two loops to be aware of. The first one is going to be their introverted loop, which is introverted thinking and introverted intuition. And this is simply when they get caught into a situation where they can be very stubborn, where you get caught in your own loop of thinking about the same thing. You're just thinking about one thing and you just want to do that. You don't want to consider any other options, any other possibilities. You just want to act on this one thought. And what happens is it ends up turning into a bad outcome. And instead of, now they'll say, look, this is what happened. Did you learn from the experience? This is the advice. You just go back to being impulsive again and doing exactly what you think. And all of these series of impulsive actions put you in bad scenarios. So for ESTPs, you have to learn the value of taking perspectives from people. And the best way to tap into that is extroverted feeling. You have to trust the people that you value and, take into account what they say. Also, in those scenarios, they can be very tunnel vision and it can be very negative, just seeing a negative outcome. And it's important to keep positive people around you to give you perspectives on life that will broaden your perspective so that you can see more possibilities that are more positive. Because if all options seem negative at that point, that's when ESTPs can get into self-destructive behavior because they don't really see the light at the end of the tunnel. So you got to go out there, communicate with positive people, and keep a good circle around you. One thing I noticed with ESTPs more than most types is that they really are, what plays a big role for ESTPs is the quality of people that are around them. ESTPs at their best keep really good people around them. And ESTPs at their worst can keep dysfunctional people around them, and then they end up doing impulsive things that can get them in trouble with that group because they do have extroverted feeling as a third function that is group oriented. So keep that in mind. Now, the other thing that they can get into, which is going to be probably one of the most common issues for ESTPs, is that loop of overindulging. And that's extroverted sensing and extroverted feeling. And that's the ESTP constantly just seeking this experience, seeking that experience, seeking to do something with this person, seeking to do something with this person. And they're just doing this, doing that, but they're not maintaining their stability, their structure. Their structure begins to crumble. They experience more and more difficulties because they're unwilling to ground themselves and do the things that may not be as fun, right? When you're a type that wants to engage in your senses and have experiences and do different things, what happens when, in order to get where you want to get, you got to just do the same thing, right? You got to focus on one thing. You got to just, and it can be boring. So you have to embrace that at times it will be boring in order to have more excitement in the future. But if you're constantly trying to chase excitement, this experience after this experience, you'll never be able to really build the stability to really take your life to the next level. So in those moments, it's important for you to value your thinking, focus and use your introverted intuition to focus on your target. You know what I mean? The more that you hone in on your vision, magical things are going to happen. And so ESTPs do best when they're putting their energy and attention toward a goal that they believe in and that they are passionate about. And they will take the steps day by day to make it happen. But you got to be aligned and you got to make sure you're putting your energy in the right places. So now let's talk about the gift of the ESTP first and foremost. And that gift, all right, is the willpower. All right. You're equipped with a high level of natural determination and grit. I mean, the reality is you have extroverted sensing first, and then you have introverted thinking second, which means you are one with the environment. You have a dominion and a power in the environment. And then on top of that, you also have the introverted thinking to be focused and do one step at a time to get where you desire. They have a confidence in their abilities that drives them past the rest. And it's that grit, it's that introverted thinking that, locks in on the goal. It's that introverted intuition that can see the target, and their extroverted sensing is going to do whatever needs to be done in the physical environment to make it happen. This is a very strong type. Their resilience and self-will allows them to achieve the impossible relative to their peers. And let me just say, their self-will is off the charts. If we're going to talk about measuring willpower, theirs is off the charts. And once again, that's that extroverted sensing. All right. And they're willing to take risks to get where they truly desire. All right. So that's the thing. They're willing to take the risk that everyone's afraid of. So even though they can be impulsive and they can be risk takers, that's actually what makes them special. That's actually the reason why they're going to be able to get a certain level of success that others won't, because they're willing to take the risk. They're willing to push past the limit. They're willing to be the bad guy, you know what I mean? Or be the person that, you know, has to be stressed out, because to them, they'll take on the extroverted sensory pain and challenge and risk in order to get to that end goal. And that's what makes them so powerful. And that's why willpower is the gift of the ESTP. And anybody that knows the ESTP can vouch for it. It is just a gift that they have. And then finally, your hidden power is your adaptability. And that's what people don't understand. See, the ESTP is very non-judgmental. They're willing to give anybody an opportunity to prove themselves. They're willing to put themselves in new environments to learn and expand their network. This is a very non-judgmental type. And that's really one of their gifts, because they are willing to take the risk to get to know people, take the risk to give people a shot, to prove that they are capable, you know, and that's really their gifts. They are often gifted with an array of different talents stemming from art to hands-on skills. You know, these people can do, you know, ESTPs generally can be found in a variety of different areas of life. Obviously, they can be involved in athletics, activities, physical things, hands-on tool tasks, things like that. But they also are very creative. They, you know, and they like to put themselves in different environments where they can challenge themselves. So you can find ESTPs everywhere. And that's another thing that makes them very unique. They're very adaptable. They can adapt with different people. You know what I mean? They're very open to different walks of life. And once again, that's one thing that's very special about them. And they're also willing to embrace change and always willing to bet on themselves when challenges occur. And let me say, that's one of the biggest gifts. That's why I put adaptability, because they're the ones that are willing to deal with change. They can deal with things moving in the environment. They have this level of comfort when everyone else is nervous and afraid. And this is what also gives them the capacity to be very powerful leaders, when they are able to really develop that extroverted feeling. So if you can combine all the ESTPs out there, if you can combine your willpower with your adaptability, you'll be able to just go into different environments and get what you want out of the environment. People will connect with you, people will trust you, and people will feel your strength. All right. The ESTP is an extremely powerful type. I want to give a shout out to all the ESTPs out there. And if you know an ESTP, man, just watch and really, if you got an ESTP on your team, that's a beautiful thing, because they will serve as an agent of force to assist you in your growth. And ESTPs, let me just tell you, man, embrace your force, embrace your power. Don't let people dull it down. Just continue to open your perspective. The more your extroverted feeling gets better and you are able to work with people and value their perspective and those things, you will get it back tremendously. And the more people that you're able to really have good experiences with, the happier you will be. Because at the end of the day, what people don't understand is ESTPs have extroverted feeling third, which means that they do seek harmony. They seek harmonious experiences, and they really want the best for the people around them. And they really want to have good experiences with them. So I just want to say, you know, ESTPs can get a rap for being one of the toughest types, one of the types to be kind of like rebels, but they really are loving and caring people. And I just want to give a shout out to all the ESTPs. Keep being great. Embrace your willpower. Keep being adaptable, and amazing things are going to happen. This is the magic that will open up in your life if you can embrace these aspects of yourself. So I want to give a shout out to all the ESTPs out there. And we are now going to get into the ISTP next. I will see you in the next module. Peace.